talk to the office, the Humanities Division office, they can tell you which way you want to go. Right over there. Okay, what I'm going to do with these, as you know, we have the peer review today. So what I do with these, at least at first, is collect these. I'm not going to do anything to them. Like I said, this is the peer review. This is the day you guys are going to look at your peers' papers. After the break, I'm going to just distribute these to another person. Okay, we'll do it several different ways. By the time we get to the research paper, I'm hoping that you're working with someone you're sitting next to so that you can talk about it. Okay, but for the first time, we'll just distribute them randomly and look them over. And I will help you. I will come around and look at what you're doing, and you will have a worksheet, a checklist, so that you know what you're looking for. So again, this worry of, oh my God, I don't know how to edit somebody else's paper. That's what we're going to learn how to do. Okay, so let me take some roll. Justin is not. This always happens on the day a paper is due. We have a lot of people missing, and we need to talk about that and why that happens and what you need to do to prevent it. Okay, before we get started, I have one announcement, it looks like, and that is what I kind of call housekeeping here. When we went over the green sheet, remember I said we would come back to some of the stuff on it. Okay, so what I'm looking for is, we'll come back to some of this stuff as we got to it. And we are at one of the points where we need to talk about. On the second page of the green sheet, all this attendance, all my strict attendance policies, there's a part here that we need to talk about because this date is upon us, okay? What this says is the last day to drop a class with no grade of record is February 16th. The last day to drop with a W grade is May 6th. What does it mean when it says last day to drop a class with no grade of record? Yeah, it doesn't appear on your transcript. And one thing you guys need to understand at this point in your college career is that your official college transcript is going to follow you throughout your life. Employers will be looking at it. You need to understand that what you're doing now is a permanent record, and you want to keep your transcript looking as good as you can, okay? You don't want a whole lot of W's. A W is, what does W mean? Withdrawal. A W is better than an F, but a lot of the four-year colleges are kind of beginning to look at that more closely. If they get somebody applying there that has a string of W's, what that says to them is this person doesn't complete what they start. They take a lot of classes, but they drop out of all of them, okay? So what you need to make a decision about, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying anyone should drop this class, and I'm not saying you should go to your math teacher and say, Miss Penny told me I should drop your class. But if a lot of students get in a situation where they come to me and say, Miss Penny, please, you need to accept my work late because I have so much work in my other classes that I can't get done on time. And when they say that to me, I say, you know what, welcome to college. This is what it's going to be like for the next 4 years. And you guys need to deal with that. That's not an excuse to not get work done for one class because you have too much work in another class. Teachers aren't going to accept that, okay? So what you need to think about, I say, well, okay, you know what, you need to look at your schedule. And they say, well, I work full-time and I'm taking 18 units, and right there I say, and they seem to think I should be proud of them because they're working full-time and taking 18 units. Well, some people can do that, but you know what, it's not easy. And if you're coming to me and saying you can't get your work done, then obviously you can't do it, okay? So you need to make some decisions. So early in the semester, and this is problematic because this date used to be a lot later in the semester. They moved it up to like the second week. So to make you guys kind of, again, it's this push by the state to get you through here and get you to realize how important it is that you need to do this. So if you are thinking at this point in the semester, I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew, and if you can drop a class, I know some people can't because you need to have X number of units to get financial aid or play football or something. If you are in that situation, you need to think about it. And if you are thinking that you bit off more than you can chew, you need to make that decision by midnight on Monday. That's one of the reasons I'm calling attention to this, because remember, this is a 4-day weekend coming up. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. The school's closed, so if you have, it doesn't affect us, but if you have Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, they don't meet for the next 2 class meetings. So, you go away, you have this 4-day weekend, you kind of forget, oh yeah, Monday I should have decided to drop that class. So you need to do it before midnight on Monday the 16th. If you don't, and you drop it between these 2 dates, you will receive a W, which again is better than an F, obviously, or in this case, a no pass. If you wait till after this date, and this also happens every semester, someone comes to me on May 14th and says, Miss Penny, you have to drop because I can't afford to get a no credit in this class. And I say, you know what, I can't. After this date, I can't drop you. You have to take whatever grade you get in the class. So that's how that works. So just be aware that this deadline is now really early. And I think that, weirdly, the deadline, if you want to drop and get your money back, I think is, for some reason, it's either tomorrow or the next day. And the way you can look at these things, they have it really, it's really much easier now to see these on the website, on the NBC website. I'm still not completely happy with this website, but they did clean it up a little bit to where it's kind of easier to get around. Some stuff they just pasted all these pictures on, it didn't really fix it. So up here, right up at the top, up here, important dates, these are all right here. So you can't, students will say, but nobody told me there was a deadline for this. They consider this telling you, okay? So this is the date, so yeah, this is weird. Last day to drop semester length course, we have a W, but the last day to drop and get your money back is Saturday. Don't ask me why they made that 2 different dates. So if you do drop on the 16th, you won't get your money back. So maybe you need to back it up to the 14th, drop by the end of, midnight on Saturday. That's weird. I don't know why that's two different things. Okay? Okay, any questions about that? Just, again, that's not just MPC, that's all colleges, and all colleges in the state of California now have that sooner date than it used to be. It used to be more like in the middle of the semester. Okay, so what am I doing there? I need this because this is my list of things we have to do. Okay, so we're now moving into, of course, you guys luckily don't have a holiday on Tuesday. But like I said, if you do have Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, you are not here on Monday. But we do. We are now getting into the way this class is going to work, pretty much, okay? So here's how it works. This class moves very quickly, and there's no rest for the weary in this class. For homework tonight, you guys are going to take this away and work on it and fix it and do whatever you think you need to do to it and send it to me to review. I am available over the weekend to review things, okay? And then the final draft of this is going to be due when you come back on Tuesday. And we'll talk about that in the second part of the hour. We'll talk about what you need to attach to that and what you need to turn in, okay, and how to do it. Like I said, this is kind of an experiment, so we'll see how this works. Then you'll notice that our first grammar lesson is today. So from now on, once we've gotten the introduction to the class kind of over with, you'll notice that every Thursday we'll have a grammar lesson, okay? So we're going to do that today. We're going to start off with the grammar lessons. And just so you know, they changed. I went ahead and printed this out from the lab website that you guys have, from the MPC Online lab website. And this, you guys can do that if you have access to a printer. Just print it out and then you have it. But otherwise, it's up on this thing. And what I want to say is that is this list of grammar stuff. So I can get in here. I asked her to add me to this. This has been so slow, this one, slower than FBC usually is. So this is this thing. You guys probably can just look at it online. But I'm, like I say, I'm of that generation that needs to have it. Okay, so this is just this thing. So there is some stuff in here that I am going to refer to. So you do need to be kind of familiar with it. Like I say, if you're more of a a paper person like I am, it's not very big. You're not using that much paper. But the stuff they include here in the grammar, what they're calling grammar, is not what I think you guys need to know as far as grammar. So I have my own list of grammar lessons, okay? And you'll notice that it's different from what you're doing down there. I think about mid-semester we are kind of talking about the same things. But what we're going to do today is standard edited American English. So we're going to do that first, then we're going to look at your descriptive paragraphs. And then what you'll notice is when you see the homework for tonight, homework 3, you are not only going to finish your paper over the weekend, but you're also going to start on the next paper in effect. So the way I do it is I have you do some homework, okay, and using the worksheet, prepare for writing a narrative paragraph. So what we're doing is we're moving on to this next, this next set of lessons. We're doing a descriptive paragraph. We're moving very quickly to a narrative paragraph, okay? And we're moving very quickly through these paragraphs partly because they're short but partly because I want to get you to writing essays as fast as we can, okay? So there are 3 parts to your homework. Do this reading, let's see, maybe how many 3 parts? This is all your narrative paragraph, and then also your descriptive paragraph is due in the next class. So we'll talk about all that stuff in the second part of the hour, but I just want to give you a heads up on that homework, okay? Okay, so let's look at this grammar lesson. And let's see, let me get papers back. I'm sure that I have everything. Okay, are you Justin?
Yeah, I'm a week off, as a matter of fact. I want to get an ad code as well.
I can't add anybody.
No more?
You're not Justin Alvarado? You're
No.
not already on the roll?
No.
The class is full.
The class is completely
I can't
full.
add anybody.
Okay.
If you go over to the Humanities Division office, they can tell you, there are some 301 classes that are still adding people,
Okay.
but they can tell you which ones they are.
The class just seemed more interesting.
Okay.
I've been
All
told
right,
I couldn't-
let's see, this is, okay. And Angel. Here's the thing about what happens on days when a paper is due. Attendance always drops a little bit on the day a paper is due. And this is something we need to talk about. It has to do with that, what I was saying about planning ahead, the process of writing. If you have a paper due at 10 o'clock on Thursday morning, you probably don't want to come to campus having to go down to the English Center and get it printed out between 9 and 10. My guess is that's where at least some of those people are, is wrestling with a printer down there, trying to get their paper printed out. If you don't have access to a printer at home, and even though you can turn in papers online, I'm making that optional, for the review, because we do the review here in class, you do need a printed copy of the review draft, okay? If you don't have access to a printer at home, guess what? You need to get this done yesterday before you leave campus. Does that make sense? So I know I'm what's called preaching to the choir. Have you ever heard that phrase, preaching to the choir? Obviously, all you guys are here, so you're not in the English Center trying to do it. But just for future, you do have to plan ahead so that you get the paper here when it's due, okay? But this always happens. There's always a dip in attendance. And there will be another one on Tuesday because it's the holiday, and believe me, I know people are going to wake up Tuesday morning and say, oh my God, I've been doing this stuff all weekend, playing all weekend, and having Valentine's Day, and now the paper's due. Okay, so, but you know, be careful, be sure you got it ready when it's supposed to be ready. Okay, grammar. Now, one of my things is, I'll tell you guys what happened. For the last several semesters, they had a different set of these things. And I tried, for a number of semesters, I tried to use their list of grammar things. And it was very frustrating because as you find, the grammar rules don't change, but different teachers have different ways of presenting them and different ways of what they emphasize, and it was hard for me to work with what they had. I'm not saying what they had was bad, it's just that they presented it in a totally different way. So this semester, I have decided not to even try to do this. I'm back to my old grammar lessons, not that they're old and being out of date, but the ones I used to use before they had that stuff in the English Center. So this first one, so I haven't done these lectures for a while, but like I said, it doesn't change. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is this. And this is what you will use in anything you write for college, whether it's homework or a paper or an email to the teacher, okay? Your text, the abbreviations and things you use in your text are fine. That's a perfectly good shorthand, and that's what it is a form of shorthand to use for that purpose. But I find a lot of people tend to try to transfer that to their college writing, and that's not going to work. Again, people who came from my reading classes, I didn't really mark this much for you guys because we were focusing on something different in that class, but here I will mark for this. Okay. I also refer to this as SEAE. So there are, I'm going to make a list of the reasons that people have trouble with this, okay? And I think some of this will surprise you. Has anyone ever heard this term before? The standard edited American English? Okay, you pretty much think, yeah, that's formal English. That's where I'm supposed to write in papers. But some of it is a little surprising. Some of it is obvious, and when you see this quiz, I know you're going to think, well, I would never do that in a college paper. But some of it is a little bit iffy. Some of it you will look at these questions and say, what's wrong with this? I don't see anything what's wrong with this. Okay, so the first, I'm just going to look at the questions here and give you some samples. The first reason people make standard English errors is, this pen is getting too light to see, is what I should call, I call it pronunciation. And this kind of also goes into what's called dialect. What does this word mean? What's a dialect? Has anyone ever heard that word before? English is a language, okay? But within English, as within other languages, there are different dialects. One of the dialects that has had a big influence on standard what? Yes, yeah, exactly. And you'll find as I make this list here, some of these go back. They're in all the different categories. Yeah. So if you say something like this. Now again, I know you're going to look at this and say, well, I wouldn't write that in a paper. Okay? Yeah, she believed nothing ain't ever going to go wrong. Now, it's possible that so you see what's going on here? Yeah, and this starts to turn into slang. I'm actually going to put slang as another issue. But this then turns into a slang spelling, what you would call a slang spelling of those two words, okay? Now, you might hear somebody say something like this. Everywhere. Yeah, you hear people speak like this. But my guess is, and I think with a lot of you, it's the truth too. You may use some of this language, even in your texts, your emails, but what you have to understand in this class is, for some people, it's almost like learning another language. When you sit down in a college English class, you can't do this. Okay, this is a standard grammar error. That is basically a subject-verb disagreement, okay? But how do you fix that? Yeah, you have to put the S on. What about this? Yeah, she believes. Yeah, and be careful. What I'm going to give you this is one of the sentences on here. What you're going to have to do is correct these sentences. Okay? See if you can correct all of them. Okay, yeah, she believes. I believe, you believe, he or she or it believes. Okay? What about this?
Is not.
Yeah. That's two errors actually. You can fix it out to is not. Yeah. But then what do you have? that called? Nothing ain't. Ain't in itself is a dialect. And what I was gonna finish this up with, the dialect that this comes from is basically, what we have is the American South. That's where a lot of that dialect, this stuff originated from, okay? What is nothing is not? What is that called? Have you ever had an English teacher? Nothing ain't. This is called, so this is a slang phrase, yes.
Well, it might not be, it's a little off point, but I was wondering, it's not American English, is that? Is the
Okay,
same
good,
of, like, there's also
good
American Sign
question.
Language?
Which part of this is wrong? Okay, this is American. This is definitely an American phrase, okay? But this is where this comes in. It's not standard. It's not standard English. Yeah, but this is definitely American. This is from the American South. Okay?
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's one of the things we've got to do as we make this list, is what part of this do these different errors represent? Okay, so she believes nothing ain't. This is, you probably recognize this from high school. Double negative, anyone ever called you on that before? Yeah. So this is a double negative. So what you need to do is, so we've got a negative here and a negative here. So what you got to do is take one of those negatives away. So even though this translates to several things, are not, is not, am not, okay, what you want here is just this. Yeah. So that's actually a double error. It's an informal word, ain't. Yeah. Okay, here's a good question. Would you find the word ain't in the dictionary?
Yes.
It's in there. But one of the things that we have to watch for, and this is what you're going to be responsible for when you edit your papers. And what students always say to me after we start these lessons is, wow, you know what, I really am really more careful about what I write here, okay? So what it's gonna say is when you look these words up, and that's what some students argue with me, but this is in the dictionary, so therefore I should be able to use it, okay? Be careful, because you see where the first word in both of those entries is non-standard. So this means you can't use it in your college writing. And I think you're going to be surprised at some of the words on this quiz that you have been using all your life, and you find out they're not standard, okay? So and it's interesting, different dictionaries have different levels of this. That's another interesting thing. Dictionaries are all different. Some dictionaries will say one thing, and other dictionaries will say the other. So you pretty much have to choose which dictionary you're going to use. Okay, so non-standard except in some dialects, but we are not using dialect in our writing. So for us, it's totally non-standard. Again, I think most of you guys would not have used that word in your papers, but it's just kind of an introduction to the stuff we're looking for. This is obviously supposed to be what? 2 words, yeah. She believes nothing is ever going to go wrong. That's what that translates to. That's what you're going to have to do, is translate these from non-standard English to standard. Okay, so that's one reason that people make errors. Okay, the next reason is just informal usage. And this, you know, they clean the this board with something that makes it really hard to erase. I gotta get them to use the right thing to clean the board. This is what will probably surprise you. Okay, let me find one here. I'm making these up as I go along. But they're similar sentences on your test. What is non-standard about this? This is the one where people look at it and say, there's nothing wrong with that sentence. Anybody know what the but this sentence actually, if you write this sentence in a paper, you're going to get 2 errors, 2 grammar errors.
Is it and some other guy?
What?
And some other guy? Or guys?
Well, that's going to depend on what you mean. And that's a good point about editing people's papers. You couldn't just say, you mean just one guy here, because you don't know. They may mean 2 guys.
Well,
Okay,
you have an S, it's in the multiple.
let's look up some of these words. The first one that's a problem, believe it or not, is the word kid. Okay? And what you have to watch for here, this is, again, using the dictionary. You notice the first entry, what does that start with? Informal. So there's all these little minefields in the dictionary. Standard is, I don't like to use the word formal, but this is another word for this. So the very common use of kid to mean a young person or a child is actually not a standard use. What is a kid? What is the real definition of a kid? It's a baby goat. A kid is a baby goat. Yes. So again, you know, you're thinking, my God, I've been using that word all my life. It's fine in your informal spoken English. Okay, but like I said, we're almost learning a new language here. What you have to realize is your informal spoken English is one thing, your college paper writing, you have to shift over to standard English. Okay? So yeah, this is a troublesome one, because and the reason these words come into use is because they're so useful. I mean, we can say kids and mean pretty much among, you know, anything. I can go back to my office and say to one of my other teachers, oh, the kids in my 301 class are really doing well. And they're not going to, you know, they're English teachers, they're not going to bat an eye. But I'm not going to write that in some report I'm giving to my boss. I'm going to say the students, right? Okay, so a kid, and you have to make a decision. Yes, Sandra.
So I'm curious, kids, you could replace it with maybe like child? Would that be more
Yes,
formal?
and yeah, this is the thing. And this is the thing with editing papers. You can't just cross this out on somebody else's paper and say, no, you mean child, because they may mean teenager. They may, you know, you don't know. That's one of the reasons it's not acceptable, is because it's not really clear what you're saying. So if you find the stuff in your partner's paper, you can just learn these little, write this, or you can write slang. It is in effect a form of slang. What these informal things are very often, it's something that started out years ago as slang, but it's become so common that it's not really even considered slang anymore. Okay? Yeah,
So
mark these things.
young boy?
What? Yeah. So the boy, and only you know
I
what
mean
you-
young boy.
what
Say like-
yeah, young boy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the young man, it could even mean young man. Yeah, so you have to sort out what that means.
Okay.
Your writing partner isn't going to know what that means. They can flag this as standard English, but you need to say, what do you mean here? okay? So can you guess what the other word is that's too informal to use in a college paper?
Guys?
Yeah. So now you're getting the idea. You have to kind of start thinking in terms of, why does this keep coming up here? So here we have, again, the first thing is the common definition, but this is informal. There's a whole bunch of words, there's a whole bunch of, in fact, I'm going to give you a list of the words that come up in the dictionary. Sometimes it'll flat out say slang, or informal, or non-standard.
How are you gonna know which one?
How are you going to know?
Yeah. You have to look up.
You're gonna, yeah, but here's what's gonna happen. Your writing in this class is gonna start to shift to be a little bit more formal. And when you get a sentence, so if we start to fix this sentence, and we change it to, I went to school with the young man next door and some other guys, you're gonna get to the point where you say, wait a minute, if I'm using young man or young boy here, this is gonna say, you can say, wait a minute, that's too informal, okay? So it's gonna jump out at you. By the end of the semester, this kind of thing is gonna start to jump out at you. Yeah, but that's a really good question, especially for you who use this language all your life. As you're writing your college papers, you're gonna get more and more skilled in listening to your ear, kind of, for this informal language. Okay, so this is a fellow, I don't know whether you want to use that, that's guys, but it could also be, you know, I could also say to my teachers, the guys in my 301 class, you know, I sometimes say that, you guys need to turn your papers in. And I don't mean just the male. So, and I'm an English teacher, but that's my spoken. We all use some form of informal spoken language, okay? The real meaning of it is, you can see down here, there's a whole bunch of different meanings. A grotesquely dressed person, the Guy Fawkes is the, they have their Halloween is kind of like Guy Fawkes Day. Here's another interesting thing. What about this? British slang. That's this. We're using standard edited American English. There is also the same thing. Standard edited British English. Where is that spoken? Where do they speak British English?
In Britain.
In Britain, in England. Yeah, and other places around the world. Okay? So we don't have this as British slang. Yeah. And there's another meaning of it that I'm not seeing here. Yeah, a rope, cable, or appliance, a guy wire. That's the real meaning of it. They've got the, you know, you see the telephone poles, and then they have that wire that comes up. That's called a guy wire that holds it to the sidewalk. That's the real meaning of the word God in America. Okay. So does this, again, obviously I can't introduce all of these issues to you in one lesson, but it's kind of giving you an idea of what you're going to have to look for. Okay, so we're only to number 2 on the list. The other things get kind of, they kind of run back into this. Okay, there is flat out slang, and you have to excuse me if my slang is maybe, and one of the things I'm going to have you do on this is write your own informal sentence and then translate it for you. That's how I keep up with what's going on with the slang. So I tried to put something, you know, I looked up some slang sites, Okay, what about this usage? And you can, oops. Oh. Okay. So you guys took that quiz. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard that usage? Does that make sense? This is a new slang word to use. What does that mean? I do this because I've had, when I gave you that directions quiz, I've had people write this on the bottom of their quiz. Epic fail, okay? So what does that mean? When you took that directions quiz? Yeah, you really bombed it. That's my generation. I really bombed that test. And it changes with every generation, okay? This is slang, okay? This is slang. This word fail is a verb. It's not a noun. You cannot say this was a fail. That doesn't make any sense. It's slang. So again, this is flat out slang. Yeah, you have to change it to something that is, whatever you mean. Or change the whole sentence around. I did very badly on my.
You could say I bombed the test.
Well, bombed is informal in that sense. And this is the problem with slang, is it changes with every generation. Even more quickly, it changes every 2 or 3 years. And some of the words that have been, like that's where guy and kid came from. They were slang hundreds of years ago. And they've kind of moved into being a little bit more acceptable, but they're still not considered formal. Bombed is still considered slang. I mean, that's probably from my generation, but it's still, but to you guys it seems, oh, that's a good old word, but it's still informal. Yeah. So when you fix these, don't just fix it to another slang term. You have to fix it to something more standard. So this is why I give this test at the very beginning, because you have to kind of start moving your brain in this direction of this kind of new language, okay? Now, the pronunciation dialect one, the gonna and ain't and that kind of thing, that's one kind of pronunciation problem. There's another kind of pronunciation problem that Microsoft Word will pick up as a grammar error. And this is another thing. If you are using Microsoft Word to type your papers, it will help you with some of this if you have it set correctly. Okay, so let's look at this. I'm going to type in sentence here. One thing it's going to do is it will probably, no, I don't think it'll catch this automatically. And we're going to do some work here with Microsoft Word, partly because you guys will need to have help with the formatting, and partly this for the grammar. Okay, so I'm going to type this word. Okay, what's wrong with this sentence as far as not dialect? Although it does kind of, like I said, some of these are hard to put into lists. Is this right?
Could have.
Could have, yeah. Is that correct?
Yes. No.
No. Here's what's happening, and this is why I call it pronunciation. Here's what you have said all your life. That's a contraction for what? Could have. But listen to how that sounds. You've heard people say, I could have gone to USC, but my grades weren't good enough. That's the last one. Could have gone. That's what you hear. That's what you hear. Could have. So students end up writing it down like this in their papers. Okay, now, you notice what it's doing here? What is the little green underline mean in Microsoft Word? People who use Microsoft Word. There's a green underline, a red underline, and then a kind of a purple. Sandra?
I'm curious, how can I catch those pronunciation issues? I'm deaf, so how would I notice those?
Okay, so here's the thing about Sandra. Sandra, I want to tell you guys, you think this is confusing. Sandra, how many of you have taken ASL, sign language? Okay, so you know that her grammar is a whole different world. I mean, she is really going to be learning this, okay? So Sandra, this kind of thing isn't going to apply to something you have to learn because you never unlearned it by hearing it wrong, okay? So in some ways, she's in good shape, right? Yeah. But what you do need to, what Sandra does need to pay attention to is when she's typing and she gets these little squiggly lines, she needs to figure out what's going on there and how to fix it, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, I know, this is a real challenge for Sandra. This is going to be difficult for her.